In this video, I'll give you an easy step-by-step tutorial on how to record guitar or any other instrument in Reaper. I'll show you how to set Reaper up, get the lowest latency possible, how to record tracks, how to add plugins and effects to your recorded tracks, and a few more advanced tips to make recording easier. If you haven't used Reaper before, it's an excellent DAW or digital audio workstation that you can try for free with no limitations. I regularly recommend using Reaper to Audacity users as the next step up in recording music. As you'll see in this video, it's ridiculously easy to use, and if you choose to buy it, it's significantly cheaper than all the other popular DAWs. The first step is to connect your guitar to your computer. I have an entire video talking about your options here, so check the link in the description to see which option suits you best. If you have any questions about connecting your guitar to your computer, check that video out. For my setup, I'm using an AXIO audio interface to connect my electric guitar to my PC. You can follow the same steps whether you're recording an acoustic or electric guitar or any other instrument or vocals with a microphone. Once you plug your audio interface or microphone into your computer, open Reaper. The first thing to do when you open Reaper is to set up your audio device so Reaper knows what inputs you want to record from. Go to the Options menu and select Preferences. Otherwise, you can press Ctrl-P at any time to bring up the Preferences menu. Find the Audio section from the left list and click Device. The device area is where you tell Reaper which audio driver to use and what audio inputs and outputs to enable. If you're using Windows, select ASIO from the Audio System drop-down menu. Then you can look for an option that matches your audio interface under the ASIO driver drop-down menu. For example, if you have a Focusrite audio interface plugged in and you've installed the driver for the interface, you should see Focusrite USB ASIO as one of the options. Choosing an option that matches your hardware usually gives the best results. If you don't see your audio interface in the list of audio devices, it doesn't mean that your interface won't work with Reaper. All it means is that there isn't a dedicated driver installed for it. You'll either need to install one or use an alternative driver. You can see that I have an AXIO solo option, which matches the audio interface I have plugged in. I can choose that, but I'll explain an alternative that usually works in most situations, or if you don't have a dedicated driver for your setup. You can see that I also have a driver called ASIO for All, which can be used with almost any device you want. One of the reasons I usually suggest using ASIO for All is that you can use it to hear the audio output on the speakers or headphones connected to your computer instead of having to plug speakers into your audio interface. If you want to try this option, download and install ASIO for All and restart Reaper so you can choose it from the list. Check the guide on my website for instructions and download links for ASIO for All. Once you've selected your driver, you want to make sure that you have the right inputs enabled or else you won't be able to record anything. Start by clicking the ASIO configuration button. You'll use this to set up your audio device and tell Reaper what inputs and outputs you'll use. If you have a driver that matches your audio interface, it will look different than what you see here, but you can still follow the same basic steps. Some drivers will let you pick and choose what to enable, while others automatically enable everything and don't give you any options. If you do have an option to select inputs and outputs, make sure you select the correct input for your audio interface or microphone. So if you have plugged in a guitar or a microphone into channel 1 on your interface, make sure that channel is enabled on this screen. Now let's look at a really important area that affects your recording experience. When recording guitar in Reaper, the sample rate and buffer length is very important to understand. The length or size of the buffer will impact the latency you hear. Latency is the delay between when you play a note on your guitar and when you hear that note on your speakers. The lower the latency, the better. High latency makes it difficult, if not impossible, to record your parts in time with the rest of your song. There are two main ways you can lower latency. You can lower the buffer size and you can increase the sample rate. Let's start with the buffer size. In Reaper, there are two ways you can set buffer size. You should be able to set it in the ASIO configuration section, and you have a checkbox here next to the request block size. I only suggest trying the second option if your audio driver doesn't give you any options to change the buffer size. At the moment in my settings, you can see that ASIO for All has the buffer set to 512 samples, which works out to an overall latency of around 12 milliseconds. Latency over around 10 milliseconds is annoying, so it's worth spending some time to try and figure out what settings to use that gives you the best latency possible. Halving the buffer size will essentially halve the latency, so if I reduce the buffer size to 256, it will give me a latency of around 6 milliseconds. That's much better and very usable, but lower is better if possible. If I reduce the buffer size to 128 samples, the overall latency reduces to just over 3 milliseconds, which is perfect. That's the latency I'm hearing right now as I record this, and I don't hear any latency at all as I speak. The goal with adjusting the buffer size is to get it as small as possible without it causing system problems. If you lower the buffer size too much, you'll start to hear glitches or stuttering in the audio stream. So try to get the lowest latency possible that your computer can handle. Later on, when you create a song and test your guitar signal, you'll hear the latency, so you can easily come back at any time and adjust this later on. It's also worth noting that if you add a lot of plugins and effects to your tracks, you might need to adjust your settings if your system starts to struggle with the load. The other main way to lower latency is to increase the sample rate. Close the audio settings screen and click this eye icon to bring up the current project settings, or you can press Alt-Enter. Here you can set the project sample rate. You can see the default is currently set at 44,100 Hz or 44.1 kHz. A higher sample rate will reduce latency, but it will also cause your CPU to work harder, and it increases the file sizes of the recorded audio. Increasing sample rate from the default 44.1 kHz to 48 kHz will slightly improve latency, and it's a good option to consider. If your audio interface supports it, you can consider increasing the sample rate to 96 kHz, which will halve your latency compared to 48. Just keep in mind that recording at 96 kHz does increase file sizes significantly and makes your computer work harder, but it's something to consider. From an audio quality standpoint, a higher sample rate does technically produce better quality recordings, but from a practical view, nobody's going to hear the difference. Now, I'm sure there's audiophiles that strongly disagree with everything I just said, but you don't need to record at a super high sample rate to produce a great sounding recording. I suggest only increasing sample rate as a way to reduce latency if you want to. After you close the settings screen, you can see what the current latency is at the top right of the screen. The first number is the estimated total round trip latency, and the second number is the one-way latency. If you have issues with latency after following these steps, you might want to look into whether your recording hardware has any direct monitoring options to try out. Let me know in the comments if you want me to cover this or latency in general in another video. Once you have your audio device set up, you can close the audio settings window and get started recording. You can always come back and adjust the settings later on if the latency is causing problems. To record anything, you first need to set up a track. In Reaper, it's as simple as clicking this plus icon on the left panel. The first thing I suggest doing is double-click the blank space next to the red icon on the track and give the track a name. I'll name this one Electric Guitar. Click the red recording arm icon on the track to prepare the track for recording. You should see a few useful options show up on the track. You can also access these options at any time by right-clicking the track. First, click this drop-down arrow to choose the input channel you want to record from. If you follow the earlier steps, you should see the channel you want to record from in this list. For guitars, bass, vocals, or most instruments, you'll want to record mono, which is set by default. But if you're recording something like keyboards, you might need to change the track to record stereo. If you're recording multiple microphones at the same time, like if you're recording drums, you'll want to set up multiple tracks, one for each microphone. I'll explain later how you can group tracks together, which is handy for cases like this. You'll also see options such as record MIDI, which you'll need for MIDI-based instruments, but that's not something I'll cover in this video. Once you select the input channel you want to record from, you should hear your instrument through your speakers, as well as see the track meter light up. If you don't hear anything, make sure this speaker icon, which is the audio monitoring option, is set to on and you can see the meter light up. You can also press this button to stop audio monitoring at any time. If you see the meter light up but you don't hear anything, double check your audio device settings and make sure the correct output device is set. Also check any physical volume faders or mute buttons on your audio interface. Unless you're using ASIO for all and have selected your computer speakers as the main output, you'll need to connect headphones or speakers to your audio interface to hear your guitar. Now before you hit record, it's a good idea to make sure you have your audio level set right. If the level is too low or too high, you'll end up with a poor quality recording that can't be fixed later on. Make sure the meter on the track never maxes out and turns red like this, or you'll end up with clipping in your recordings. If you ever see this red square appear, it means the track has maxed out. Adjust the physical controls on your audio interface so that you get a loud but not clipping signal. Don't use the grey volume button on the track to adjust your audio level. That's for later on when you want to mix your tracks. Use your audio interface's level controls to properly set your level. Once you're happy with the audio level, you can start recording. Now I know this is a lot of talking before getting to the actual recording section, but it's important to set everything up properly. Reaper gives you 3 recording modes, which I'll explain later. To record, simply click the red record icon on the transport panel, which contains the main play, stop, record buttons. Or you can press Ctrl R on your keyboard. I'll show you how to change this shortcut to something more practical later on in the tips section. You should start to see the recorded track appear on the screen with a waveform. To stop recording, press spacebar or the stop button on the bottom of the screen. You might see a window pop up asking if you want to save or delete the new recorded files. You'll likely get sick of this window popping up every time you want to stop recording, so if you want you can uncheck this box and it'll stop asking every time. Of course, sometimes this window can be useful, so you can always re-enable it in the Preferences, Audio and Recording section. Alternatively, instead of pressing stop when you want to finish recording, press the record icon again or your record keyboard shortcut to stop recording. This bypasses that window and automatically keeps the recorded clips. You can now drag your audio clip around anywhere you want as well as edit it. For example, if you click and drag the ends of the clip, you can trim the start and the end. This is handy to get rid of any noise before or after the parts you wanted to record. If you drag the top corners of the clip, you can fade the clip in and out. You can also drag the clip to a different track and Reaper will automatically create a new track for it. If you want to split the recording into 2 clips, click to place the cursor where you want to split the clip, then press S on your keyboard. Now let's say you want to record another guitar on a separate track. Create a new track by pressing the plus icon on the left and name the track. You'll see that it automatically selects the same input channel as before. Of course, you can change this if you need to record from a different input. For this example, I'll be using the same guitar input. Disarm the first track by clicking the red recording icon and arm the second track. Any track with the red recording icon highlighted is armed for recording. Now you can hit record and you'll see the second track start recording from wherever the timeline was. After you stop recording, you can drag that clip anywhere you want as well as drag it to different tracks. You can also record multiple tracks at the same time, which is great when you need to record something like an acoustic guitar with multiple microphones in different positions. Or you can record vocals and guitar all in one take. As an example of how that would be set up, first you create 2 tracks and name them. I'll create one for acoustic guitar and another for vocals. Then arm both tracks and select the correct input channel for each track. So for my guitar track, I'll select the channel I'm using for the microphone on my guitar. For the vocals track, I'll select the input channel connected to my vocals microphone. When you hit record, you'll see both tracks start recording the different instruments. Now that you know how to set up and record tracks, let's look at how to add effects and plugins to the tracks. On the left side of the track, click the FX button. A window will pop up asking what plugin to add. You should see your list of plugins here. Go to Options, Effects, Plugin Settings to bring up a lot of useful options. If you don't see all of your plugins on the main list, go to the VST option on the left and click Edit Path List. You should see all the folders Reaper will scan for plugins. If the folder you use to store plugins isn't there, you can add it to the list. If you install a new plugin while Reaper is running, just go to Effects and Scan for new plugins. Select the plugin you want to add to the track and click Add. If you have the track armed for recording and you have audio monitoring enabled, you should immediately hear the plugin on your connected guitar or instrument. From this screen, you can change the plugin settings as you like. Click the checkbox on the list of added plugins whenever you need to bypass a single plugin. Click the Effects menu and you'll see far more options now that a plugin has been added to a track. Let me know in the comments if you want a separate video talking about plugins in Reaper. If you close the Effects window, you can open it again at any time by clicking the Effects button on the track. You can also disable all the plugins by clicking this icon. Red means the plugins are disabled, green means the plugins are enabled, and grey means no plugins have been added to the track. There's another handy way you can keep track of your added plugins. The bottom section of the main screen shows the track mixer. If you hover your mouse in between the transport buttons and the mixer, you should see a green line appear. Drag that line up the screen to give more space to the mixer. Now at the top of the mixer, you should see the plugins you've added to your tracks. From here you can jump into any of the plugins, or you can add new plugins to any track by clicking an empty space. You can also right-click any plugin here for more options, or you can shift-click it to bypass it or enable it. Yellow means a plugin has been bypassed. If you use a lot of plugins on a track, you can drag this line to give the plugins view more space. The space below the line is for output routing, which is an advanced topic I won't cover in this video. The last point I'll cover on plugins for this video is that you can add plugins to the master track by clicking the effects button on the master track in the mixer, or by clicking this blank space on the master track. This master track also shows the main output settings, so check here if you're not hearing your output properly. You now know how to set up your audio device, record your instruments, and add plugins. Let's finish up with some more advanced tips to make recording easier. You can check out my full guide in the description for more details and for solutions for common issues people have when trying to record guitar in Reaper. If you're not getting any audio or having other problems, the guide will probably cover what you need to know. The first tip is to group tracks together. Let's say you want to record an acoustic drum kit and you have a few microphones set up to record them. A handy way to keep everything organized is to group them all into one folder. Set up your tracks for recording, then create a separate track to be used as the main folder for those tracks. I'll name the main folder track Drum Kit. Drag the folder track to the top of the tracks you want to group, then click this folder icon on the bottom left of the track. You'll see that all the tracks below this will be added into the folder track. From here, you can drag tracks in and out of the folder, or you can click the folder icon on any of these tracks to create subfolders or to remove the tracks from the folder. You can still arm and record individual tracks in the folder just as you would normally. Just think of these folders as an easy way to group things together. Click the arrow on the top left of the folder track to cycle between 3 different views. If you plan on recording a lot of guitar tracks, using folders is an easy way to stay on top of them all. Another way to visually stay on top of all of your tracks is to color code them and to give the tracks icons. Right-click a track and select Track Color and choose an option that suits you. You can select multiple tracks by holding Shift and clicking the tracks. Then you can right-click and choose a color to apply to all of those tracks. You'll notice that the tracks in the mixer also change color, so this is a good habit to get into to keep your tracks organized. Come up with your own color code, so anytime you start a new project, you know what colors to set for your guitars, bass, drums, or other instruments. If you want, you can also add icons to each track. Right-click and choose Track Icons, then you can choose either an icon that's been included in Reaper, or you can choose your own custom images. These icons are handy if you plan on adding a lot of different instruments. If you name every track, use custom colors and icons, you should find it much easier to keep everything organized, especially as your projects get bigger. The next tip is to try out the different recording modes and learn when you might want to use them. Right-click the record icon and you'll see the 3 different modes. The normal recording mode will start recording from wherever the timeline is set. You hit record, Reaper records from the timeline point, and then you hit stop when you're done. It's as simple as that. The next mode is Time Selection Auto Punch. The idea behind this mode is that it will only record a section that you highlight. Let's say you want to record a section from bars 5 and 6. Drag in the timeline view the section that you want to record. Now click somewhere early in the timeline from when you want to start hearing your track. Hit record and you'll hear playback from that point. When the timeline hits your highlighted section, recording will punch in and you'll see the recording start to appear. After the selected area is finished, the recording will punch out and you'll just keep hearing the playback. Hopefully it's clear how useful this mode can be, but I suggest playing around with it so you can see when you should and shouldn't use it. The last mode is Auto Punch over selected items. The idea with this mode is that you select an item on the timeline, such as a previously recorded clip, then Reaper will record another take over that clip. So I'll select the clip I want to re-record, click to set the initial playback point, then hit record. Just like before, you'll hear the track play, then when the selected item is reached, Reaper will punch in and start recording over it. After you stop recording, you'll see that the clip splits into 2 takes, which you can click between to choose which one is active. I could talk a lot more about these modes, but this should give you an idea of the different times when it makes sense to use different modes. The next tip is to set keyboard shortcuts for things you regularly do. For example, I really did not like the default key for recording, which was Ctrl and R. I'd rather use a single key press. To set or change keyboard shortcuts, go to the Actions menu and select Show Action List. Let's say I want to change the recording from Ctrl R to just pressing R. First, I'll see what the key R is currently set to. Click Find Shortcut, then I'll press R on my keyboard. You can see that R is currently set to Toggle Repeat. Let's swap the shortcuts for Toggle Repeat and record. With the Toggle Repeat action selected, click Add at the bottom to set the new shortcut. I'll press Ctrl R, then OK. A warning will appear to let you know that there's already a shortcut assigned to that key. Hit OK to override it. Now I'll select R from the shortcuts and hit Delete. Now we can fix the shortcut for record. Under Filter, type in Transport Record and find it in the list. Now I can follow the same steps to set that shortcut to R. Now when I want to record, I'll simply press R and R again to stop. It might seem a bit messy to swap shortcuts around like this, but once you get Reaper set up exactly the way you like it, it makes things much easier. One shortcut that I set up in every DAW is one that instantly deletes what you're currently recording and starts recording again, all in one key press. This is really handy if you mess up a take. Instead of stopping, deleting the clip, then starting again, you simply hit one key and Reaper does all of that automatically. To set it up, select New Action and New Custom Action. In Filter, search for Stop, then add Transport Stop to the actions. Then search for Undo and add that to the actions. Then search for Record and then add that to the actions. Give the custom action a name such as Re-Record and click OK. Your custom action will be added to the list. Choose the keyboard shortcut to set it to. I have mine set up to the star key on the numpad. I've been using this shortcut for years and it is so handy. I find it amazing that it hasn't been added to DAWs as a normal one button option. Give it a try and see how useful custom actions can be. The final tip I suggest is to consider using a MIDI controller with Reaper. While you can do everything just fine with the keyboard and mouse, MIDI controllers can make the process far more enjoyable. I resisted buying one for at least a decade, and as soon as I bought one, I realized how wrong I was. Having dedicated transport buttons, faders, sliders, keys, and pads, or custom buttons to assign to any action you want can make using a DAW so much easier. I've written a guide on my website talking about all the different options to consider, so check it out to learn more. Let me know in the comments if it's a video you'd like to see me create. If you follow the steps and tips in this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy using Reaper. It's a great DAW for recording guitar and other instruments. If you found this tutorial helpful, hit the like button and let me know what topics I should cover next. Check out the full written guide on my website and subscribe to get notified for future videos and tutorials like this one. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I'll talk to you next time.